All right, so it is time now to discuss the issues surrounding the president's executive order to see if we can find common ground, which I have a feeling might be difficult, but we're going to give it a whirl here. Let's start off. Hassan, this order by President Trump does not mention Muslims. That word is not in the order anywhere. The 7 countries that are included have already been pegged by Congress as being needing extra scrutiny here. Do you consider it a Muslim ban, though?
I do. I mean, it's very devastating for the American Muslim community. I mean, imagine a man elected who says that your religion hates this country, who says he wants to ban all people from your religion, who wants to establish a registry for people of your religion, and the first thing he does is implement a policy that essentially targets people from countries that are predominantly of your religion and makes special exceptions for people who are of another religion. For us, it looks like it's a Muslim ban. Yes, it doesn't affect all Muslims, but it primarily targets Muslims, and it hurts all Americans and our liberty and our freedom, and it's been devastating. I mean, this weekend, I've gotten hundreds of phone calls from people who are stuck in airports or are stuck overseas, even U.S. citizens. We had a woman who was stuck 20 hours in an airport who was a green card holder. They weren't letting her in the country with her 2 U.S. citizen children without food for over 20 hours. A lot of students right now, their lives are on hold. They don't know if they can renew their visas and what's going to happen. It's a scary time for the American Muslim community and all Americans.
Okay, Chris, is it a Muslim ban? The president has specifically said no, it is not. What do you think?
Well, I don't think so. And Hassan and I have a great have for Hassan. We're friends. I have previously written, when I used to write a column for the Tampa Tribune, condoning the, or rather attacking President Trump and his actions and statements that he made during the campaign. I don't condone this type of Islamophobia that we've seen in some instances, but I don't think that that is the case is what's going on here. The president has a duty to protect American citizens and the American sovereignty and its borders, and it's something that we haven't seen in years. Under Obama, we had this politically correct cupcake diplomacy that I think Americans rejected at the ballot box, that they want to see a strong leader who is going to ensure the safety and security of Americans and its borders. And that's what we're seeing here. This isn't about banning Muslims. This is about 7 key countries that lack the infrastructure, the diplomatic relations, the technology, and the ability to help ensure that their citizens who are exiting their country and coming to America are vetted. Syria is the prime example, and the reason why it's so extreme in terms of the restrictions on Syrians is because it's a torn country. They are effectively at war with us. They're supported by the Russians, who are traditionally not our ally. There are a lot of things going on that people need to understand, that this is not just a knee-jerk reaction that can be characterized easily into, well, this is just Islamophobia. I reject that. I think that the president is doing what needs to be done. This is not a permanent ban. These are extreme vetting restrictions that are going to expire, and that President Trump is doing what he said, which is to ensure the safety and security of America and its borders.
It does seem like that during the campaign time, when anybody was asked about vetting, particularly from Syria, it was, well, yeah, sure we do, but then they couldn't explain how or how they go about doing that. Do you think more vetting does need to happen?
The vetting process is extremely rigorous. It takes about 24 months of vetting before a refugee is admitted into the United States, and that's why the chances of being killed by a refugee in America in a terrorist attack is 1 in 3.6 billion with a B. You know, it's practically, impossible. And that's why it's important we recognize that this is not about safety. You know, of the 7 countries that are banned, since 1975, exactly 0 Americans have been killed by a terrorist attack in America by somebody from those 7 countries. This isn't about keeping America safe. It's about expressing bigotry. And I think we saw that when Giuliani went on the record and said, hey, Donald Trump called me and he said, how can I legally implement a Muslim ban? And then you see the special exception for Christian refugees. You see Trump himself saying he wants to ban Muslims. I mean, look, if it smells like something, I mean, it's very clear. It's very clear.
Well, and again, I take exception with Hassan and the characterization that this is a Muslim ban. I think if you look at the statistics, is completely wholly inaccurate, given that 90% of the Muslims in the world are not living in a country that is on the ban or the extreme vetting list of those 7 countries. So if Trump really wanted to ban Muslims, then why isn't the list that much longer? These are 7 countries that are effectively third world countries. They're war torn, they're challenged with their economies. We don't have strong diplomatic relations with these countries. And the fact that, more terrorist attackers have come from, say, Saudi Arabia is a very good point, and maybe Saudi Arabia should be on that list.
Which they're not, right.
But the criteria for establishing the 7 countries that are on this list was not about where previous terrorists came from. It's about those countries' inability to help and vet and ensure that the people who are exiting those countries and coming into our country are who they say they are. And that's where those 7 countries fall down and why this vetting is necessary.
Which President Obama signed off when Congress said these 7 countries need more vetting for visas. I want to get into the very little opinion polling that we do have on this. Rasmussen found that 57% favored a temporary ban on refugees from Syria. Reuters found 66% agreed that U.S. should limit refugees. 49% agree directly with the order. 41% oppose it. It would seem from that little bit of polling that we do have that Americans are split down the middle, but the majority seem to be okay with it. How do you feel about
Well, look,
that?
I think what Chris and I both agree on is that we need to keep our country safe. Nobody's in disagreement with that, and I have tremendous respect for Chris, even though I disagree with him on some of these issues. The point is, however, is that this isn't keeping our country safe, and it's callously wrecking thousands of lives. We heard a report of a woman who was coming to America seeking treatment and died because she couldn't come in because of the temporary ban. It's very problematic, and it stigmatizes American Muslims. My 5-year-old daughter yesterday, on her own, said, they want to kick us out, but we're not going anywhere. This is our home. That's right, this is our home, but my kids are growing up in an environment where they heard the President of the United States say he wants a complete and total shutdown of Muslims coming in the country. Why did he say that if that's not what he wants to do, and if this isn't what this is? I mean, we can see it's problematic of him saying that.
Well, and Trump certainly said a lot of things on the campaign trail that were inappropriate, inaccurate, and can't be done, and this is not one of them, because what he's doing now is what he should have said a year ago on the campaign trail when he called for a Muslim ban. He should have called for a specific ban on countries and people of origin from those countries that present a threat to America because they cannot be appropriately vetted. And to the comment about your daughter, that's very unfortunate, and I hope that you corrected her and said, no, honey, the President is not trying to kick us out of the country. The President is trying to keep us safe by ensuring that those who do come into our country are who they say they are, because that's effectively what this does.
Well, I think there may be some common ground here in the fact that some of the rhetoric during the campaign might not be very helpful for all of this right now.
And Trump made some mistakes, and you know, look, he made some mistakes, his administration did, in the way that they implemented this.
Yes.
They didn't, you know, share a lot of information, both with the media, the public, and with people within his own administration, and the whole confusion about the green card issue. But look, you know, President Kennedy made mistakes with the Bay of Pigs. He learned from that mistake, and that's what we can hope that President Trump will do.
Well, what's very devastating here, however, is that senior officials in DHS and DOJ objected to many of the ways that this executive order was supposed to be implemented, and were not even, their expertise was not taken into consideration. They were overruled by Steve Bannon, who's pulling the strings behind Trump. I mean, really, we have President Bannon. I think that's the most accurate statement. And he is a well-known racist, white supremacist, Islamophobe, anti-Semite. I mean, he's the problem. We have to wake up. This is very scary rhetoric, and these are very scary policies coming from that hateful rhetoric that's not good for our country and doesn't keep us any safer. Again, there's countless countries that, just like Syria, Sudan, Somalia, have just as bad vetting procedures from their side and bad infrastructure. We don't see them banned.
I hope you'll join me in calling for the President to add those countries to the list.
Well, in that case, we may as well statistically shut down immigration from every country, because statistically you're just as much likely to get criminals from any country as you are from those 7 countries. And again, that's why since 1975 we've had 0 terrorist attacks fatal in this country from anybody of those 7 countries.
Hopefully, under this executive order, we'll continue that trend of 0.
Well, let's always
we can all agree on
Amen.
that, okay?
Amen.
Well,
Amen.
if nothing else, we did find that in common. And, you know, since some of those mistakes in implementing this have come about, permanent legal residents or those green card holders, they now can enter the U.S. Others, students, as you mentioned, that's now on a case-by-case basis. But initially, there was some confusion here. If you're going to do something this big, you better do it right.
And that's a function of the federal bureaucracy. It's not the Trump administration saying, let's deny someone into the country who needs medical assistance, or saying to green card holders that they're going to be treated the same way as someone who is just trying to immigrate into our country today. That's just a function of bureaucratic snafus, and it's to be expected, however unfortunate it may be.
Well, it happened on the thousands, and we can't be callous to the countless lives. People who were devastated, who were terrorized, who were put in handcuffs. I mean, I've seen pictures of 5-year-old kids put in handcuffs because they were coming on green cards expecting to come home. This is their home. They go to school here. They